good afternoon, or good morning still, I guess. So my name is James Fenton. I'm the director of the FSEC Energy Research Center. Formerly we were called the Florida Solar Energy Center, but we now know FSEC Energy Research Center. And we're part of the University of Central Florida. So I'd like to talk to you about Florida's energy future, some of which is today, and we're just not aware of it. But mostly this will always involve efficiency. In any areas we should do, the best thing to do is to be more energy efficient than we are. And I'll show you how wasteful we are today. Solar is an increasing opportunity. It's an opportunity for everybody, not just the utilities. As long as you own a roof, the best investment you can make is to put it on your roof. I'll explain that to you. Energy storage is something that's coming along. As we go more and more renewables, as time goes on, we have to store energy because the sun doesn't shine in the evening, of course. And then there's opportunities for electric vehicles, and all this turns around with the idea that today we use net metering to help promote some of the solar that we do add onto the grid. This is a diagram that shows over on this side, this is the primary energy. In Florida, we buy natural gas, coal, and petroleum. There's a little bit of biomass, a little bit of nuclear, and in 2014 there was a little bit of solar. But you can see that we spent $42 billion on primary fuels, all of which were purchased from outside the state of Florida. So none of this was made in the state of Florida. We convert some of that primary fuels into electricity. And in the conversion of electricity, we ended up with $25 billion worth of electricity. We converted these primary fuels at 36% efficiency into this electricity. If I look at all this, including the petroleum for transportation down here, you can see that all this primary energy, all of which we spend by sending money outside of the state of Florida, we throw away 70% of it in waste heat. So we only use 30% of our funds. Now, all of you that are involved in any councils, if somebody came back to you and said that you misspent 70% of your budget, you'd be thrown out of office immediately. But that's what the state of Florida does every day. And I'll remind you, when you spend money on energy, there's no wealth creation unless you made the energy in the state of Florida. So when we talk about this renewable energy future, it's all about jobs, it's all about keeping money in the state of Florida. I mentioned efficiency first. We can actually grade our buildings today. Much like appliances have those little yellow stickers on there and they tell you how much energy you do, we can do this with all our buildings. Okay, and the most common rated system is something called the HERS index. On this scale here, the average home in Florida today is about 150. A new home is around 100. And a net zero energy home, this is a home that's really energy efficient and then uses solar to displace the rest of the energy, would be down here on the zero rating. This is an example of probably a relatively new home that was built a little bit better than code. Okay, we're at the 70 index. And so over the average home in Florida, this saves $1,000 a year. Over a new home that would have been built at the 100, it would have saved you $539 a year. And you can see that if you have a net zero energy home in this example, compared to the average home, that would sell you $2,335 a year or $1,796 over a brand new home. It is cost effective to build zero energy homes today. It's cost effective to rent zero existing residential homes today. I'll show you that next. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about the grid. Okay, we pay for the wires. We, the consumers of electricity, pay for the wires. Now, we're used to paying for electricity on what they call a volumetric rate. Okay, so you don't pay a fixed charge for the wires. And whether you're a snowbird or not, the wires are attached to your house, and there's a cost. Okay, but a snowbird isn't paying any electricity, so they really aren't paying for those wires during periods of time they're not there. That's just the way we price it all out. But there is an actual cost. And this is the transmission as well as the distribution grid. And you can see here that as you look at this over the course of time, throughout the 90s through the early 2000s, we were relatively flat, and then we've moved up. So to give you a flavor, typically on your electric bill, 40% is for the wires. Okay, and the rest is for the actual movement of energy around. So there's something to be aware of that. Now, what's happened with clean energy? Back here, solar energy in the 2009 timeframes, the only place you saw it was on the International Space Station because the cost of running a wire all the way up there was too expensive. Okay, but you can see that the prices have dropped substantially. This is for utility scale solar as well as utility scale wind. Today, a natural gas turbine plant comes in at $59 a megawatt. So there's a reason why the utilities in Florida are building solar like crazy. It's cheaper. And it's all equipment costs and no fuel costs, and they make their profit on equipment costs. So they're printing money today. Hallelujah, it's doing the right thing. Okay. Interesting thing is in energy storage, now this isn't the cost of the battery out of the wall, this is the actual cost of the battery itself in dollars per megawatts. And you can see that it's dropped down substantially as well. So the opportunity in the future is we'll be using technologies rather than digging holes in the ground and getting fossil fuels out of the ground, because they're cheaper. This gives you an example for prices that we can maybe understand more as a residential. As an example, back in 2010, the cost of PV on your roof was 42 cents a kilowatt hour. On 2016 dollars, you were paying about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So you can see it's substantially more expensive when you get out of the wall. And that was true for the utilities as well, 27 cents versus a gas turbine running at 8 cents at that time, and so forth. Okay. One of the things I do want to point out, lost my point on this, is that if you look at the price differences between the 42 cents, that's the red bar on the left, and the 27 cents, that was a 15-cent difference back in 2010. Okay? Look at the 2020 prices for the residential. That's at 9, without any subsidies or income tax credits or anything else like that, or good deals through co-ops where they buy them cheaper and do all that kind of neat stuff. But that was the average price in the United States, was 9 cents in 2020. And notice what the price for the utility is in 2020. The difference is 9 cents versus 6 cents. Yes, the utilities make solar cheaper than you can. I already showed you it costs 4.5 cents to ship it to you. Wait a minute. It's cheaper for society to put the solar on your roof. Now we can argue who pays the money and how we move money around. But we've already gotten to that point in 2020. You can see by the time we get to 2030, we're looking at 5 cents versus 3 cents. And the wire costs are just keep going up. So you're going to be making energy at the sites that you're using. And of course, you're going to be putting the batteries there as well. This is good news for Florida. You can see here that this is the utility as well as the small scale installations on a gigawatt basis. By the way, a nuclear power plant is 1 gigawatt. Now that nuclear power plant runs all the time. Okay, but to give you a flavor, so Florida at the utility scale in 2016 put in close to a gigawatt. Okay, Florida residential is also picked up. I say it's not good enough. Where are we? We're down here. But you can see the little blue line there. I do want to point out to you that what California does on their rooftops. So California, their rooftops, okay, actually has put in more solar than our utilities in Florida. In California, 45% of the electricity comes from roofs. It's solar. And California puts out 20% of its electricity. It's solar. Florida, making good inroads, both at our residential and as well as our utility, we're down here at 2%. Comes from solar. Now, our future is very bright. But I want to point out, it's not all the utilities. It's going to be you and your roofs, as well as the utilities. We need both. Okay, now how does net metering work? So right now, if you were going to go ahead and put enough solar on your roof to make your house a net zero energy home, you'd make as much solar electricity over a year as you consumed. Now clearly you're making all that electricity in the 5 to 6 daytime hours, but you're consuming electricity at the night. So you really, when you make that excess solar, you actually run it through the meter and you run it backwards. Your meter actually, in the old days, mechanical meters would actually spin backwards. Now we have bidirectional meters, it's all digital. But it actually spins backwards. So you can end up then, if you had a complete net zero energy home, averaging out wise, okay, other than the fixed charges, you could actually get down to 0 monthly electric bills. Right? We can do that here in Florida. I do want to point out that the solar electricity that you didn't use didn't go all the way back to the utility. It went to your neighbor. So it only went across the pole here, across here, and then went to the shortest spot that needed it. Okay, so actually net metering and solar actually improves the grid. Okay, contrary to what you might think. Okay, that's where we're at. Now, let's talk about money, which I like to talk about. So, before I go through this chart up here at the top, let me talk about the one down here at the bottom. I apologize that this is so small. But this is the total energy consumption on a percentage basis in the state of Florida in 2018. And you can see here that the roofs and the residents actually consume more than 50% electricity in Florida. Okay? The other commercial entities, which are mostly buildings, consumed about another 30%. So close to 90% of the electricity is used in Florida's buildings. So if we made Florida's buildings net zero energy, that would mean the utilities would only make 10% of electricity to give the industry. That's what it means. Okay? We are now in a position where the utilities don't have to do the work. You can, and you can make money just like the utilities. So today, if you were to put solar on your roof in 2020, today's prices without the income tax credit, you'd save $14 a month. And you can see I've done this for every year going forward, and you can see what the monthly savings are. Okay, so you make money today. By the way, today I make an internal rate of return of about 12% on my top solar. So I'm making money too. My wife would only let me put 5 kilowatts up. She wouldn't let me put any on the front of the house. Okay, so I'd need about 15, but the goal mostly is to keep my wife happy, not money, okay? So, but I'll convince her in a few years that that's still a good investment. Maybe I can comment on that. This is an interesting study. So with net metering, you get all the benefit of that electricity and you offset your cost. So here's that same $14, okay, in 2020 that we made as a profit. If you want to add batteries on, okay, there's no real business model for adding batteries today. The way we price our electricity in Florida residentially is you get a fixed cost. Maybe someday they'll change this to the time of use rates and some other kind of things, and maybe there's a business model for you to put a battery. Commercial entities who have demand charges can often use batteries to lower their demand costs. And so there's opportunities for businesses to use batteries to offset their costs. The utilities are already putting batteries in with their solar installations today. A typical solar installation at a utility scale is already putting 4 hours of battery in, and that 4 hours of battery with that solar is cheaper today than what just the solar was last year. Okay, costs have just come down so much. So we're seeing it. What I want to show you here though, is that if I added 50% battery capacity, so in other words, I said that I don't want to ship the electricity back through the wires. I want to keep it in my own house and use it at a later date. I use 50% battery capacity, or then I ship to 100% battery capacity in green. So you could, in the year 2020, okay, it would cost you $100 a month if you went ahead and put the PV on your roof to make it a net zero energy house, and then you added the batteries. For you to be on average, this is on average, remember some days the sun doesn't shine and all that, you could be grid independent. It costs you $100 a month. In the year 2030, you make money doing it. 2035, whether you have the income tax credit or not. That's not that far away. So the opportunity here, clearly we're going to do this with new building homes. When we build new homes, I want to construct them where I already have them solar ready. If you're not going to already do the solar, and it's cost effective to do solar ready, make them battery ready, and please put a plug in for your car. Okay, at the same time. We should be requiring that because it's cheaper. And of course, when you do this at the time of construction, it's a lot cheaper than that. Let's talk about electric vehicles real quick. Today, the upfront cost of an electric vehicle, including pickup truck electric vehicles, is higher than the internal combustion engine car or truck. In 3 years, it won't be. I'm talking about the upfront cost. The maintenance and the mileage and everything else, electric vehicles have been beating them forever. So for those of you who have city fleets, people are putting electric vehicles in because they're cheaper. They're a lot more fun to drive too. Okay? I love taking my Nissan Leaf and beating the Corvette off the line. It's a lot of fun. Okay? You have instant torque in these things. But what my point here is that even with large electric SUVs and pickup trucks, by the 2025 time frame, the upfront cost is cheaper. The maintenance costs are a lot less expensive. And by the way, you're using Florida-made electricity. The beauty about an electric vehicle is your fuel is made in the state of Florida. Now, I'd rather have it not be natural gas or not this. Gasoline is not made in the state of Florida. And of course, gasoline we only use to 21 to 26% efficiency anyhow. So electrifying vehicles is huge. Okay? It can be a game changer. Now, battery prices have been coming down substantially over the course of the last several years. We're getting close to this $100 a kilowatt, okay? But you can see here the concern is that we won't be driving down that much more. But we beat the internal combustion engine cars right around here. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about the year 2030. As utilities continue to add more solar and solar, they're going to have to add energy storage. And this reflection is worldwide. You can see here in 2030 that this pink part here is for utility storage. The rest of this stuff for storage in vehicles and consumer electronics, you own. So by the year 2030, the consumer is going to own 24 times more energy storage than the utilities will. So we're going to be storing energy in our cars, not buying a bunch of batteries. Because you've already paid for the car. The car is already cost effective. The storage is free. My Nissan Leaf, which has got a 40.5 kilowatt hour battery, which I don't use as a storage device in my car, is enough to meet the 100% storage requirement of my house today. I guess I got to do the wires around a little bit differently so I can use the solar. I got to get more solar than my wife. Already have 5 kilowatts. I need 15 really, but if I had 15 kilowatts of solar, I could plug it into my vehicle, and my Nissan Leaf would get me through hurricanes. You know, this is happening just right around the corner. The next thing I want to point out: jobs. Today in Florida, mostly because we're the third most populated state. Of course, we have the third most populated number of clean energy jobs. That sort of makes sense. But I want to remind you, we have twice as many people working in clean energy as in agriculture. And we have equal to the number of K through 12 teachers already in clean energy. We're only generating 2% of our electricity from it. Imagine how we go forward. Solar energy installers is the #1 job growth from 2016 to 2026, and they earn $37,000. We should be investing in training the workforce, retrofitting our homes, okay, building homes that are far more energy efficient. This requires a higher level skilled workforce, but that same construction workforce can learn how to do all that. Why don't we electrify our roads?
Why not? Every mile we build.
We can do that. You know, there are places, we already have catenary lines that are over trains. There are some buses in some cities that use lines overhead. Lynx here is going to be adding some electric buses. They'll be charging those at night. But you're right, we can do this. We can change our road infrastructures and having this. And there is wireless charging available. And of course, hydrogen around the corner too. But I don't have so much time. But you're right. So this is the vision I would share as I try to close out here. What Florida really needs to do is spend little to no funds on imported primary fuels. I don't want you spending money on solar either. Solar is a box that makes electricity for me. The best thing for you to do is put more insulation in your house so you don't have to make it in the first place. The value of your house goes up. It's worth more. Okay, the last thing you want to do is spend money on energy. So we need to be more energy efficient in a lot of cases. If I am going to spend it, I want to spend it in Florida. I currently, on my Nissan Leaf and the solar on my roof, I make the equivalent of 27 cents a gallon for gas. And it's made in Florida. And I kept all the money in Florida. You guys are paying $2 a gallon. You're crazy. You can get it at 27 cents and make it yourself. Anyhow, what the opportunity, though, requires us to all work together. Okay, we have to enable the utilities and the consumers to achieve this 100%. We need to work together. And in doing so properly, we'll get the 100% resiliency. And then let me close out. The gazelle does not have to outrun the cheetah. It has to outrun the slowest gazelle. Coal is gone. Okay. Oil sands, this is the stuff in Canada. You know, we're talking about still building that pipeline, but we can't because why bother? The oil sands is too expensive. They're not digging it out of the ground anyhow. Oil, you know, the price is down a lot cheaper, but they're all going belly up. A Florida company by the name of NextEra Energy is worth more money than Exxon. Exxon has been delisted off the stock market because it's not worth as much. The Florida company in the business of renewable energy is bigger than Exxon. And they can't make any solar in Florida because they're regulated monopolies and some things like that. But it is a Florida company. It's in the business of making money. So if you want to invest in the utility, FPL isn't so bad. The others are doing a great job here in Florida too. Natural gas. We continue to need natural gas. I'll remind you that we make plastics, we make pharmaceuticals. Natural gas is a chemical feedstock. We shouldn't burn it. And of course, if we make useful things out of it, we sequester all the carbon. So the chemical industry is coming back in the US because natural gas is cheap. Shouldn't be in a hurry to sell it all up. So to finish up, put a GE on your roof. That's what the future is. Thank you very much. Time for some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fenton. Questions? Great presentation.
You have a question?
Yes, sir.
How do you know the reputable solar energy? So the ones that, there's a lot of them now.
There's a lot of them out there.
That are out doing that. I mean, basically, you know, my bartender was selling.
Yeah, right. You know, we still are, unfortunately, you know, my stock answer is, until you can buy it at Home Depot, okay, it's not a true market anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And so it is the Wild West in a lot of ways, and there are snake oil salesmen out there. We do have a group that puts out these solar co-ops. I would encourage you to look into that. They tend to probably been in all of your counties already. Okay, Solar United Neighbors is this co-op. You can put Google them up. And what they'll actually do is they collectively get all the consumers together, state that I'm interested in doing this. Then they as a collective group, the consumers all included, will put a bid out to contractors to bid on maybe 100 sales rather than a one door-to-door kind of sale. Okay, and then that group vets those contracts out and looks at all that and so on and so forth. So I actually bought the solar through, I live in Brevard Solar, I actually put the solar on my roof. Okay, and it was done through that co-op opportunity. And they're also a valuable source of information to look into, so if you want to contact them. We at the Florida Solar Energy Center certify and test all solar systems installed in the state of Florida. So you have to pass through our test. But that's like a UL stamp. Somebody can still put a UL appliance in very poorly and you get fire on your roof, okay? So we as an organization can't tell you which contractor is the best business. You can check your, Better Business Bureaus and whatnot. But I would encourage you to look at the Solar United Neighbors website. They'll be a good source to go. You really ought to look to it. Any of you that own a roof and are already investing 10%, yank it out of that, put it on your roof. It's the best investment you get. As I say right now, even with the income tax credit, close to 12% internal rate of return. And it's fixed for the next 25 years. So look into that.
Yes, sir. Dr. Fenton, it's good to see you.
Hi, Lee.
How you doing?
You're not wearing my tie today.
No, I'm not. Yours is not turned around. Please turn it around.
Oh, I apologize.
That's all right,
Oh.
yeah.
Thank you for putting that. By the way, this comes in black and gold like UCF
Yeah.
too, which is what he has.
I have both.
Oh,
I have
do you?
both.
Oh, good, good. All right.
Those
I'm
are
sorry,
great.
I interrupted you.
No problem. That's great, guys. I just wanted to tell you, if anybody has never been to the Solar Energy Center, they give tours. And I would just say it's in Brevard County. I just like you to know that it is quite an eye-opening experience, and it's getting better and better as Dr. Fenton indicated as far as the rate of return. I just want to thank you very much for being part of UCF, but also this, we as a state, the Sunshine State, it always frustrates me, and I think a lot of other people, why states like New Jersey and Delaware, do better at solar than we do, and it's true. And it's a matter of time, it's a matter of education. But
We're getting there.
But we're getting there, yeah, and we really are. And I think we as representatives of government probably have the opportunity to be, to show an example. And I would suggest anybody getting with the Solar Energy Center, because you all are still in the business of showing
Right. We serve the state of Florida. That's our job.
other governments how to do things. So I just wanted to thank you very much for all your hard work and effort. Mr. Chairman, do you need a motion on this net metering letter?
We are gonna, that's an action we're gonna take.
Okay.
Commissioner Lockhart had a question.
Okay, but I just wanted to,
I just want to add one other thing you brought in, and something that all of you think about. Florida has the most acreage of man-made water bodies in the United States. Number one. Now, floating solar works. You own the water bodies. Unfortunately, there isn't an electric load that's right next to that water bodies in a lot of the case. If there was, you could put the solar on as your own entity on that water body and use it, okay, and then offset your electric load. But what we ought to be thinking about is a way for governments that owns its water bodies to go ahead and put floating solar on, and the governments make water rather than just leasing that to the utilities for them.
Commissioner Lockhart and I suggested that to somebody, recently that was going to put on solar energy in our community and wanted to cut down trees. And we said, why don't you put it on the water line?
Right.
The city of Altamont Springs.
You guys are doing it. That's why you reminded me of that.
Yeah,
right.
the city of Altamont Springs just did that, and and it's going to be.
It's the business models we need to work out. I think maybe all the communities
Going to be
and counties, if you all work together on this, you can approach the state in a way that you can make that land very useful and provide energy that offsets your community somehow, and do it where you guys, it's a revenue generator for you.
I just want to finish. They were going to be energy, zero energy for their facilities because of their solar energy that they're doing on water bodies, and actually talking to selling it to other cities. So it can be done.
I'm sorry I interrupted the question. It was over here. I apologize.
That's okay, Commissioner Lockhart.
with me. So it's compelling, but likely we need to talk about scalability.
Sure.
And it seems like thinking about this in newer communities, maybe and clustering this concept may be more feasible than retrofitting. Am I picking up on that?
Well, yeah, that is true, because clearly, as an example, as you're building a new building, and you're running all the wires in, run the wires for the solar, or do this, do that. So you definitely win on that. But the economics are still there for the retrofits too, though.
So the thing that Commissioner Constantine and I learned when a large company, that shall remain nameless at this table, said that they were going to get to this goal of this net zero, meant that they would have to take down 100 mature oak trees from their property. And it's amazing how constituents suddenly decide that solar isn't nearly as important to them as trees. And so there's this tension that exists in trying to retrofit and put something like this back, into an established community. So I don't know if, and then we wound up in the discussion of, well, I mean, if you're creating energy, is this now, is power generating, is this a whole nother element of our code that we need to look at? If this becomes a thing, and we're gonna have businesses.
Well, I do want to point out, the utilities in Florida make energy. You and everybody else, the goal is to lower your electric bill. So solar is not a way for you to make energy. Solar is a way for you to lower your electric bill.
Well,
So
so the
we-
flip side of that point, I would say, is how many of us rely on utility taxes to fund.
Oh, yeah, you've got all these
So,
trade-offs.
I mean, there's a lot more to this from a local government perspective.
Oh, you bet, you bet. So I was involved with the city of Orlando's plan. Okay, for its 2050, we got funding from the DOE and we worked through all that plan. Happens to be they have a municipal utility. So if the residents all put a solar on the roof, the municipal utility is not giving the city government money. Yeah, you gotta do all the math. Argue about is we tend to argue about taking money out of another person in Florida's pocket and putting it in my money pocket. Well, my goal is let's minimize the cost for all of us. And let's do the right thing. And then by all means, let's make it fair and equitable and solve those problems. But this is not easy math. None of this is easy math. And that's what makes it so difficult.
And it's scared for oil industry. And because of that, they fight against it through the lobbyists, right? I remember sitting in lectures at age 18 talking about solar. So I figured all the adults that had by the time I'm 50, they'll have it all squared away. Here I am, 50, and nothing's been squared away. I'm back at saying the same thing. So
Okay. Well, I got 13 years on me, and I've been saying it too. So, okay. But I'm very upbeat. Like I said, in fairness, even the utilities passed the crossover point in 2017. So our utilities aren't telling you that they need to be built with natural gas turbines. Well, they are a little bit, but just to put them on solar. So we're in a good place, but we need wisdom and doing it fine. And I think the roles of counties and cities, you need to step up. And the beauty is you can work together on this. Okay, and there are municipal utilities being created new even in the state of Florida. So there are some creative ways that you can do some of these things. The rural co-ops and some of the other groups, are doing creative things working together. So, yeah. Thank you. Satellite Beach is where my kids went. Oh yeah, satellite that.
It's more of a comment than a question. So Satellite, we've worked really hard to become a sustainable city. We're really small, so it's pretty easy for us to do that. But we recently had NASA and FSEC students come in. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah, I do.
They did
Nick told me all about it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a cool concept because, like you're saying, everybody has a roof. I mean, obviously not all sections of your roof are going to be usable for solar. You really need like a north facing. And so they did this study of the whole entire city of Satellite Beach where they looked at the heat and the north facing roofs and then figuring out what homes are going to be the best for putting solar and retrofitting. Because we're pretty much built out, so we're going to have more redevelopment and we're going to have development. But it's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, we can figure this all out from satellite images and some things like that. We're going to do that. And the gentleman over there, I guess Jeff, when you brought up about the solar co-ops and things like that, if you choose to go into that path, there's no obligations, there's no money to throw up. They'll ask you to give you their street address and zip code. And they'll actually, on Google Maps, make sure that, is this your house? And And then they'll go take that image and tell you exactly what they think it's gonna be that will be on the roof, based on what your image is. So you get some feedback pretty quick, no cost, you know, but because of these same technologies that come along with it.
One more comment too, is one of the things we're doing at our, so we already have solar on our city hall, and our goal is within the next, we have all these targets that we wanna achieve, and so, the other one is that all of our buildings will go onto solar, that we, the municipal buildings, but some of the other things that we've done that have made it more efficient, replacing windows with more energy efficient windows, changing out your lighting, so you don't have as much heat getting produced, so there's a lot of things that you can do to keep the environment and for your energy bill as well, but other than just the investment of solar, but we're seeing a return already on our solar investment.
Yeah, if you can get an employee within your counties that does the math and the numbers for your energy bills, they'll pay for themselves in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay, because the University of Central Florida's example spends $20 million on electricity. The average high school in the state of Florida spends $500,000 a year on electricity. So if we save 10% in every high school, think about how much money it is. Okay? It's just that it requires somebody to do a bunch of math and look at these things. And gosh, we've been leaving the lights on all this time. Now we have these controls and we need to do these things. So I think those opportunities are there. And that's your guys' money. And we're wasting on energy. We don't need to be.
Mr. Curry had a question.
Yeah, you didn't mention anything about the wind.
Yeah, well, I will a little bit if you like. Florida just really doesn't have a wind resource that's steady. They tend to like 20 to 30 mile an hour winds that blow all the time. Okay, wind happens to also be more of a utility kind of thing. And so if I'm in a utility and I'm going to go ahead and install wind, I'm going to put it where I'm going to make the most money. So Florida sort of falls off the table. We have some areas, and there's often talk about offshore wind too, but that's the main reason that Florida, you know, solar, the utilities can do, the customers can do. Though a lot of sailboats put those little wind turbines and charge their batteries on.
I do have to make a clarification though. We don't have the wind, but our companies in Central Florida are developing the technology. when it comes
Oh,
to wind turbines.
yeah, yes, we do have wind
That's
turbines.
very important, because this work
Right.
that we've done in Washington and Florida at the council, just Mitsubishi over in Lake Mary, and Siemens over in Central
Right,
Florida.
right.
They're leading the nation to the point that we are one of the regions with the highest amount of technology packaged water.
Now be careful, there's gas turbines and there's wind turbines. Okay, so Mitsubishi and Siemens are leaders in the gas turbines, which is where most of that's gone. I agree with you, we do this, and we actually manufacture wind turbines up in Pensacola too. So there are opportunities for those jobs. It's just that in most cases, the resources are better in other places.
Great, John.
So we've got solar fields, government buildings with solar, residential. What about hurricanes, stuff like that? What's the challenges there?
Yeah, so to put solar on your roof, you have to meet the current code. So if you got a 20-year-old roof, it doesn't meet the current code, and you put solar on, it meets the current code. So solar holds your roof on, is the way I describe it. And sure enough, through the hurricanes, we have over 150 schools that act as emergency shelters in Florida, of which we, the Florida Solar Energy Center, installed all those systems, okay, that have 10 kilowatts of PV and lead-acid batteries. And every single one of them worked through the hurricanes. If you happen to see the Mexico Beach school where they flew a drone and went through the gym at one end and came out the gym in the other end, the very end of that clip, you'll see our 10 kilowatts of solar over on the corner still working. Okay, so the solar works through those hurricanes. There's no moving parts. We have to meet the 150-mile wind code. Out where I am on Brevard, I have to put 3 aluminum rails up instead of 2 aluminum rails, but they do meet the codes for all that. Okay.
Yeah, turn over.
No. I don't know if it's green here. I'm not green.
We can hear.
That's okay. Okay, so no, I had a question for you. So for folks like me that have closed cell phones sprayed at the roof line,
Right.
does that present an installation difficulty where instead of being able to fasten against plywood, now they've got a problem because there's closed cell phone there?
No, not a problem.
Okay.
Actually, the solar actually lowers your air conditioning bill too, because if you offset the panels in there, they provided shading under that roof. Okay, and so believe it or not, the solar panels, you know, take some of that off. So your air conditioner bill actually goes down when you put that extra bit of shading on. But by all means, take the oak tree first. Of course, lately I've been picking up lots of acorns, but, you know, so I may take mine down, not because of solar though. Okay.
No, this is great conversation. Any other question? Oh, Amy, yes.
You had mentioned requiring wiring for solar. Do you know of any local governments in Central Florida that have ordinances that actually require solar wiring?
I, off the top of my head, I don't think there are any. Okay. The advantage of making a house solar ready, okay, in several of our cases, we work with Habitat for Humanity.
I'm
So
sorry.
we talk about affordable houses and
Not
like that.
just
But
new
in the
houses,
Habitat for
but
Humanity
retro.
homes, we put them all in solar ready when we make them. They make them energy efficient because they make money doing that. And quite often they put the wiring in. To be honest with you, if I really had my choice, you guys would make every real estate agency, any home that's listed has to be rated. Okay, and that would be the biggest thing you could do, but you gotta change the MLS and you gotta do all that. Shouldn't every customer know how good the rating is? And if you did that, the banks would come along and they say, hey, Mr. Fenton, the house is selling for $240. We already know from the modeling and the rating that you've got, that if you put $40,000 worth of investment in, you'd make more money. And so we want to loan you $280,000 because we want you shipping the principal and interest to us rather than shipping electricity to the utility. So if we graded all our buildings, the banks would be doing this, assuming you can afford it, of course. If you can't qualify, you can't qualify.
Just
So.
to follow up, understanding that that could cause major repercussions, as
Right.
all the commissioners have mentioned,
Right.
on everybody's coffers. But,
Yeah, right, it does.
which we could talk about for hours. But I was just curious if anybody had adopted any type of ordinance. You mentioned new buildings, so new residential structures,
Right.
be it multifamily, single
Yeah,
family,
but
whatever.
you-
But I was talking about also on retrofits.
Right. Well, retrofits, they're cost effective to do, but every retrofit's a custom job, you know, rather than cookie cutter things. And they're cost effective to do. It's been cost effective for you to make your house more energy efficient. I had my druthers, somebody would come along to me and say, hey, Mr. Fenton, it's gonna cost you this much money, we're gonna fix your house, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and back before the pandemic, we'll send you on a week-long cruise. Answer to that question and get back to Jennifer with that. But that could be a good opportunity for you to take advantage of that, though.
Mayor McDonald, then Commissioner Biddy.
Yeah, quick question. Amy, I can help you out with that. In Maitland, we've, for the first time in 50 years, redoing our land development code. And that has been a very elemental part of the discussion about, because we are clearly built out, you know, in so many ways. So everything's redevelopment. So it does become retrofitting, and both commercially and residentially. So it's being discussed now, heatedly.
Okay. I know Dan very well, I'll call him.
Yeah, check with Dan.
Dan does a good job for you guys, I like that too. Commissioner Biddy.
Yeah, I was wondering, are there any state preemptions to prevent us from doing ordinances?
I'm sorry, are there any state what?
Preemptions.
Grants?
No, preemption.
Oh, preemption.
Are we preempted in any way?
No, in most cases, the state is very forward-thinking on its solar and actually things like this. So I don't know that you have, I don't know. It's forward-thinking on a lot of things, but I'm not on this issue. I don't notice there. I have some folks that do this stuff at my center. I'll look into some of those answers and get back to Jennifer with that. Whether they're preemptions or whether there's other cities that are doing it. You can imagine this, is that if you went through a whole neighborhood and did retrofit to hurricane more energy efficient windows, and you did it where you did the whole neighborhood in block areas, you can imagine the cost could go down. If we could organize stuff like that, or organize people to go in and just do the wiring, so you can plug and play and add the solar later. Okay, I live on Merritt Island, and I still have a septic tank. How come that hasn't been fixed yet? I don't know. I don't even pay for it. Okay, so I don't know what to tell you. You guys already have big battles you have to fight. I know that. Okay, but the solar does make money. Where obviously with my case of the septic tank, it's I think it's the right thing to do, but it's not a money maker.
Well, we're talking about solar.
Okay. Say sorry. Okay. It's my own pet peeve. Sorry.
This great conversation, and we wanted to follow up this great conversation with some action. And we have a letter that we would be submitting from the council that's the desire of this council, promoting and supporting net metering.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to authorize you to sign that letter.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. We appreciate it. This is, actually, by the way, will you come, if I ask you to come to Lake County, is that something we can do? To speak to our,
I'd be more than happy to, okay? And
Get that done.
you can see there's multiple topics. If you, I mean, today was net metering sort of as a driver, but I want to show you the big picture of the whole thing.
He wants to race Corvettes with that lead, so I understand.
Yeah. You guys, you have to, I can pin you to the back of the seat in a parking lot going 0 to 10 miles an hour. It is so much fun, okay? I feel like an 18-year-old would do it, okay? It's, I don't know what to tell you.
I love it.
You gotta go drive one, test drive.
You gotta have fun on what you're doing, and it's very evident that you have fun.
Yeah, well, you know, I was told by a colleague, Lee Constantine, a long time ago, if they had bottled Fenton, they'd have enough energy.
We appreciate it.